Welcome everyone to Sharp Talk. I'm your host Tomas, and with me today is martial arts instructor, Kali, and Impact Edge Weapon Specialist, Doug Marcaida.
How's everybody doing today? And here we are for another podcast with Sharp Talk. And Tomas, take it away and start cutting it up.
Cutting it up indeed, and this episode is going to be super fun. We're talking about the Karambit. Specifically, we're going to take a sneak peek at Doug Marcaida's very first Karambit, the blade that started it all.
So if we're going to do a sneak peek, can you take a little peek with this? You think I got a ring problem? I probably do have a ring problem.
It's not a problem. It's a passion. Let's cut into it. For anyone interested in upping the Karambit game, I always recommend trainers as well so you can practice safely. So check out DougMarcaida.com, and also FoxKnivesAmericas.com also sells Doug Marcaida's Karambit, and use discount code TACTAV for 30% off your order.
Things with rings. How did my journey with the Karambit start? Well, actually, it started because of my love for the Balisong. The Balisong I have here is the butterfly knife. It's one of these things that I started because I'm a fidgety person. So having that, I started to play with the blade, to play with it, but I also hated blades. I had a fear of them because I got accosted in my young life and all that. Long story. But I did have the clickety-clackety feel of a Balisong play. Now, fast forward. Now, I was in New York State, and the Balisong was basically, the butterfly knives were illegal to have around. So even though I had a clickety-clack feeling and my fear of blades, what did I replace it with? Keychains. So now all of a sudden, because of my Balisong play, I always constantly did this because I love to fidget with a keychain, right? And then whatever we do, it was just about the feel of the clickety-clack of the keychain. Then I started to learn about Filipino martial arts, which brought me back into the love of the Balisong. This was something that I feared. But I found out that if you face your fears, you can conquer it. I didn't know that by learning Filipino martial arts, my own ancestral art, that I not only conquered it, but I fell in love with it. But as my background was not about the Balisong, not about the Karambit, it was about learning Filipino martial arts. One of my first instructors in Filipino martial arts, Omar Hakim, actually introduced me to the concept of a Karambit. He had a little drawing of a circle of a ring there, and it was a small drawing of a very sharp thing, and he would describe it. He goes, yeah, they have these things, Karambit, it's from a Silat background. And they go, but it's actually cool, he told me. They have these things where these people are carrying sacks of rice, and they put it down there, and they run out the Karambit, they break it open this way, and they cut it open and all that. And like, whoa, with the ring there and the blade. I was like, wow, yeah, but you see what's cool about it? It's the same idea in combat that I would parry and I would cut and run it through your arm and get to the artery. I'm like, oh gosh, that is so cool. But then when I started to research about it, it wasn't exactly what the way it was presented. Could we really find it as a tool? Because I wanted to buy one. Well, fast forward to learning about the Karambit. My instructor Omar showed us, but he never really supplied one. So I had to find my own versions of the Karambit, meaning because I had to study from different instructors to find that. He guided me to the Harimau, which is a ground fighting based thing from Herman Suwanda, which the Karambit was introduced as a weapon. And it was nothing special in terms of, oh my gosh, it's a weapon. It was supposed to be simple. It's supposed to be like the claw of a tiger. Harimau means tiger. The claws are there. Lo and behold, I was introduced to my first, and I'm excited about it because I finally found it. Forever to find it, right? Early 1989 or 1990 is when I found this. My first very crude Karambit. See how simple it is?
Insane. Now, I think a lot of people think of Karambits as these large, ginormous things. This is super small. Can you hold it up for the viewers and tell us, what is that made out of?
Okay, so this Karambit is very crude. It's very small. You see that? It's a piece of metal, and it's made out of carabao horn. It's very, very light. As a matter of fact, you look at the finger placement in there, it's not really perfect. It doesn't really align, but it is there for simply stabbing. It's that simple. I can't flail with it. It doesn't even make any sense because it's so light of a weapon that even with the length, you don't have the length of the blade is so small. See that? So it was introduced to me as a claw. That's it. What made it effective was the motion that came with the fighting with this particular claw in silat fighting, how they take you to the ground, how they scrape and cut you and stab you. It was basically a punch dagger. That's simple. Now, in the way I would learn was very structured and very silat-like, that this as a weapon, though it really, really amazed me, didn't and wasn't a fidgety tool. There's no way to this to be fidgeting around. Fast forward a little bit to my time when I started finding other karambits. Now, all of a sudden, I'd say mid 90s and everything, karambits started getting popular and people started to design them in the knife world. So then I started finding karambits. Where's my first one over here? It's not actually here, but this one. Because now we're starting to put rings and blades into it. This was designed by a student of mine. We designed it together because all the things that we thought about, like, what would be a karambit be like, right? Like, well, I can puncture in here, I can scrape back here, I can cut with it, and so now I can flail, I can cut this way. So all these ideas started to make sense to me because now I was doing it like a Filipino martial artist would do, which is basically think about everything as an extension of your hand. The weapon is the extension of your hand. Now, instead of using something like this, especially in this grip, I have a karambit that makes the work go underhand. So the karambit to me is nothing more than an underhand weapon, right? But here's what it is. Before I found karambits, I went to the Philippines and I studied with my instructors over there. And he didn't care for the karambit. It wasn't really something that they did. But he did show me a lot of bakal work, a lot of blade in this way, blade out, doesn't matter. But the control factor of this particular grip was very important. But we were so much into the art and the development of that. My classmates and I started thinking things with rings. Oh my God, what do we have in the Philippines? I'm looking for the karambit. I couldn't find any karambits around when I was going there. I went to the blade makers. They go, karambit. No, and what is that? This is early 90s, right? They weren't making them there. So I was trying to design it with my classmates, say, hey, would it be cool to have something like a ring knife? It goes like, how's that attached? Well, it attaches to your hand this way. And this is what we found.
What is that?
This is what I found closest to it. That was a small blade called a tari. Tari is basically, it's a cockspur for cockfighting in the Philippines. So this attaches to the leg of cock, and they do cockfighting with it. It's a blade for that. So we were playing with this. We're like, well, how would we use it as an inside weapon? So we had to figure out it's a finger fighter this way, or I could use it this way to cut and everything else. Well, all well and good, but how do you carry something like this to make it work even? But we were so creative in those days. Then with my classmates, we created this. So this is our ring knife. So it looks like a ring, right? But it's got a blade right there. So we capture an anti-grappling and everything else. Still fascinated with the idea of a ring, but it wasn't a karambit. I couldn't find any karambits in there. Instead, we were making our own ring knives until I came back and I actually found my first karambit. And it was modeled like this, right? So then all of a sudden, this karambit I can understand. This has weight to it. So all of a sudden, whoa, I can now flick it. I can now go around with it. I can now play with it in such a way that it's got weight. Now, all of a sudden, it brought me back to all my ideas of this. It's got weight to it. I can play with it now. All of a sudden, I've got the same feeling here. Then I started to add it to my Filipino martial arts. Then I understood it. Because you see, in Filipino martial arts, everything is a stick. Or is it? If I train with this, can't I do my karambit this way? If I'm hooking with this, if I'm hitting with the butt end of the weapon, if I'm doing this, or better yet, what if I'm just training in this particular grip? So it's the same thing. It's the same thing that I'm doing. I just have to adjust to where the edge is. And that's how we adapt, improvise, and overcome when we're training for any kind of weapon. It doesn't matter what's in your hands. What's in your hands is what you can do with it. And the beauty of this is I understood that I love this retention, the ring.
Doug, that is really cool. It sounds like you basically took the inspiration from the silat and adapted it into the Filipino martial arts, taking what you knew from those angles and strikes and kind of creating that and making like that hybrid to make it fit your movements. I was curious, what makes a good karambit? What are some features and benefits of the karambit?
My one feature that I look upon with the Karambit is the ring. The ring allows for retention. I can open my hands and I can do stuff with it. A lot of people don't appreciate that. Instead, what they have, if they don't understand the use of it, they're afraid of getting degloved or getting your finger caught in there. Well, if you have one that's well made, that's not going to be an issue. How long have I been showing you how I train with this, constantly hitting and hitting and hitting and working with the karambit, and nothing's wrong with my hands because I train with it. And I make sure that the kind of blades that I have fit properly. So I love the ring. Why? Because being a straight blade person, as a matter of fact, there's a story. One of my first karambits actually is here, the 599, the Fox 599. Actually, I did a video series with this, right? So when I saw this, I'm like, this is beautiful. I love the way it looks. It's got the curve of the karambit. It's beautiful. It's got the wave feature for opening. Then I said, what if I create my first design of a karambit with somebody? So these guys approached me. They used the same handle, and we just changed this because they knew I was a karambit practitioner. So with that came, let's use a different version of it, the dart knife. So it's a tanto blade. And I called it a dart, direct action response tanto. Why? Because I felt that my straight blade work would still work for my Filipino martial arts with the ring feature. So I still have the retention. I can also still use it in this particular grip because it's forward straight for thrusting and cutting. And I had that feel that I loved about the dart because I'm a tanto guy. I really love about thrusting and slashing and all that. But it does not take away from my love of the curve. So once again, it doesn't matter what's in your hands, it's what you can do with it. So when they say what is more applicable in everyday work, well, it depends. If I want to do straight blade cuts, I've got the straight blade, I can puncture with that. I've also got this where it's already, if you were to compare this to a straight blade, right? Box cutting, right? This is still facing this. Look who already wants to go to work. This is like, put me in, coach. I want to cut already. It's a matter of understanding what's in your hand. Sometimes you don't have the opportunity or the luxury to pick what you're given. So for me, anything that you give in my hand, I'm going to look at the attributes and I'm going to say, how is it going to work? Now, my first silat instructor from the Indonesian Air Force, he did Merpati Puti. And he had, which is white belt, he had a different way of doing their strength. And I asked him about I was so engrossed in learning about the karambit. Do you have any karambits and everything? What's a karambit? I go, it's a weapon from silat in that it's a curved weapon, it's curved blade and everything. Ah, yeah, okay. I go to Indonesia in a month. I come back, I bring you one. I was so excited. Finally, he texted me, goes, yeah, text me. He sent an email like, I got you one in the 90s, right? He showed up, and this is what he brought me. It's not a karambit. I go, it's a curved blade. I was like, but you said curved. Like, that's when I realized, wait. That's a sickle. But I mentioned curved. I saw it. He goes, this is what a working man's blade is. And he showed me how to fight with it too, with this system. And I go, wow, that anything that you capture with this, it's going to cut everything that you can poke with it and all that. So when I started to see that, I'm like, can't I adapt it to this grip too? And I can still poke. I can sort of poke or jab with it. I can still cut like he would cut with this. It would capture everything that I do. Now, in this, I mimic the fighting action of boxing. That I understood from silat. Doesn't make sense doing it with this. It's not as powerful. That's why they don't cut, using this, but you can use it this because it's smaller. So it makes sense to do it underhanded. So all these things I started to understand about the karambits and the ideas of that, even so much when I collaborated with some people like Bastinelli. This is what so that was my crude karambit. Want to see my original crude karambit?
Yeah.
So the scissor here, regular scissors, was my flip for karambit that I could open and could stop. I would cut with this, but it's not as comfortable as designed for that. But yes, a scissor is your karambit. So when I met with another blade designer named Bastinelli, I said, let's make a little version of it that it's giving the same idea to something that's very slimline, that's just not index, like big folders or anything that's so small. So the first design we came in was a scalpel, the picore. Then the second idea we had, so let's go to the next level. Let's pay homage to that particular blade there again, the karambit, in just a small. We came up with a pica, just a small, right? Curved and shaped like a karambit. And then we said, let's do one that's different, like a spade, more robust. You got the versions that are also with serrations, but it's like a spade, so it's still frontline like a spear, but it still has the retention ring. And then because we like to go blade in like a true claw. We have the anomaly, which is the blade is inside, so it captures all that as you're working to cut on inside and outside. So this is the evolution of my fun with the karambit until I finally said, I'm going to design my version of karambit, which is based on my trainer. It's your typical curved blade, but a folder. And that's how I came up with, all right, guys, the tribal K. Because of the tribal from my friend Mumbaki, Dan Foronda, who designed this, was teaching with it. And I asked him, hey, do we ever have a version of that that's just a fixed version, or do we have the folder version also? And he designed that with me, or he allowed me to actually put it out there. So this is my tribal karambit. So all of these are kind of an evolution of the tools that I found interesting. And each particular one has a specific purpose in its use. And that's what I like to do. That's why they go, what's your favorite knife? I don't know. I'm multi-purpose. I like to do different things all the time. I don't ever want to be limited and locked in with my creativity. I want to enjoy what I do. And that's why I keep designing and having fun with each and every one of these designs, because you can't have one all the time. That's so boring. We have one life, do multiple things with it.
That's powerful. And one of my favorite questions to ask, like Filipino martial arts practitioners, or especially like gurus and masters and grandmasters. And I've noticed the theme that comes up. I go like, what's your favorite knife? Like, what's the one you have in your hand? And I'm like, oh man, that's like universal. It's kind of like that standard truth of like, you make whatever you have around you work for you. And I love that.
Exactly. It's, what's the most effective weapon? I go, well, whatever is available at the time of need. I may have these karambits, but if they're in my bag, in my pocket, and everything, I can't get to it when I need it, it's useless. So in essence, the true weapon is you. You are the weapon. You're always on the ready. What you pick up to enhance your skills, that is a tool. So if I am ready, on the ready with my hands, I will use my hands, but I know that my hands are physical. They're made for loving. Instead, if I pick up this one, it hits something. This is the one receiving all the impact when I'm using it, or it is the one that's slashing when I'm using it, but it's not my hands doing that. So if I pick up something that is curved like a sickle, I know a different way of using it based on its attributes, or if it's a straight blade, or if it's a baton for impact, or if it's a sword with an edge. There have different uses because I don't know what's in my hand. If I have it in this grip, I can slice and chop and thrust. If it's in this grip, I can jab, slash, and hook with it. So whatever is available is something you're going to use, but you should have the confidence to make it work. And how does that work? Training.
Something that I picked up from the Way of the Karambit seminar was that the relationship that you have and that you shared with us with the Karambit was that you use the Karambit as a tool to teach yourself different angles. You became one with the Karambit, which is in essence the way of the Karambit. Now, if folks have taken that, you have recently announced the Karambit Unleashed project with Ray Dianaldo and yourself. Can you tell us a little bit more about that for folks that are interested in learning more about the Karambit?
Ray Dianaldo is a world-renowned martial artist, Filipino martial artist. He is the head of FCS Kali, Filipino Combat Systems. What a lot of people don't know is that Ray started very early with the same teachers that I studied under eventually. We had the same lineage. What I loved about it was when I started doing the karambit and researching, I saw someone who was doing it from a Filipino martial art point of view that I could identify with. His moves, taking what we did in Filipino martial arts, whether the drills, the way attacks and everything, I'm like, that's how I move. That's how I want to do it. I'm that fluid. That's what so when I saw that, I go, I want to learn the way he's doing the karambit because it speaks to me, because I already do it from Filipino martial arts. So a lot of people don't know that the reason I'm doing Karambit Unleashed as a legacy project, meaning this is a docu-series, is that on my last leg of my life, I want to leave something behind that's a legacy. And the Karambit is one of the things that I truly love. I have so many designs with it, but I wanted to pull the guy who got me inspired to up my game, and that's Ray. And I called up Ray and go, Ray, we've done seminars together. We've never done, and this is the funny part. He was known as King of Karambit. I'm known as the Brad Pitt of Karambit. Okay, the armpit of Karambit, right? But Ray would not touch a Karambit in front of me, and I wouldn't touch it in front of him out of mutual respect. But now I'm calling him out and saying, Ray, we got to leave something behind. right? We've shined with it. We've done so many things with it, got us out there. Now it's time to leave it to the next generation for them to shine with, for them to use. Let's do a legacy project. So this Karambit Unleashed is taking our minds together, putting it together, and learning from each other so that we can create a hybrid system. But at the same time, we're also inviting all practitioners to see what we've got. You see, we're going to do a true teaching duet, meaning in seminars we've done before, Ray will get up there and he'll do his stuff. Then I'll get up there, or usually we have like 3 classrooms, right? He'll be doing his stuff, I'm doing this and everything. We're doing different things. Then we switch students. This time, no. You present your stuff, I'll present myself. Let's get together and present it together. So whatever you show, I want to say, this is what I see in what you're doing. You're already telling me what you're doing, but do you see what I see? So I want us both to learn from where's the weaknesses, where's the strengths, where can we now make it even better than what it is? And that's a true duet. You sing together. You just don't sing one by one. You sing together. And I think by doing so, we can actually make something special. Karambits are very niche. It's a very martial art weapon. But I've learned to embrace it and use it as an everyday carry. You see why? I understood that it's no different than having that sickle. That's a working man's tool. I can go every day and start working it as an everyday tool. It's concealable if I have the folder version, but I understand how it works. I can also use it as for self-defense, but I know its limitations. People go, oh my gosh, the Karambit is a useless weapon because it's so small and everything else. Of course, I'd rather get something longer like a sword, right? Or a machete or something like this, barong. But that's not the point. I'm not out there to attack someone. If I had to pick up a gun, let me get a bazooka, right? If I need a weapon to use it for that purpose. Instead, I have something that's an everyday carry that I carry all the time. I know its limitations because it's a self-defense weapon. I need to get close quarter with you to make it work. Now, the beauty of that is if I need to get this close to you to make it work, that means I can also get away from you to never ever use it. I don't need to, but I have an everyday carry. So this is a transition of a workman's tool, or rather a transition from what it was created for was a weapon. No, I am the weapon. I can turn it back into a tool, and an effective one at that.
Dr. Marcaida, thank you so much. And for our viewers, thank you for watching. If you're interested in learning more about grips, how to transition those grips, make sure to check out some of our first episodes that we've done, and stay tuned for more Sharp Talk tutorials and lessons.
And get the Karambits to unleash.